Well, we follow the NFHS rules, which is supposed to be any challenge to a referee's decision should be made at the table. If the call's not reversed, you're supposed to get warned, and then you're supposed to, if you do it a second time, you're removed from the tournament. And that's the system that's in place. Unfortunately for our organization, because some of our refs are younger and don't feel comfortable following that procedure when it comes to adults, even though I try to get them to do it, they take a little bit more abuse than they should. But, one of the things that we try to do to protect them is I'm always walking around the tournaments trying to keep an eye on things. And then we have our more experienced refs and our head ref who's overseeing everything to try to intercede on their behalf if they're taking too much grief from any parent or coach. Well, the thought behind that was sort of the brainchild of Dave Dean, the founder of MyWa, and sort of, for lack of a better term, our fearless leader. And part of his vision had always been to grow the organization and eventually have single weight classes at the state tournament. And the idea for him is to create more opportunities for wrestlers to compete at the state tournament and thereby keep them involved in wrestling for as long as possible. One of the things that he felt is, especially in some of the tougher regions, and you would see it in Metro from time to time, where there would be weight classes that were so stacked, where you knew everybody had a pretty good idea of the four guys who were going to go. And sometimes you would have a fifth and a sixth place kid who was a good wrestler, but, and especially if he was younger, wasn't going to have the opportunity to make it to the state tournament. And in that situation, if it kept going from year to year where they can't ever break through and get to the state meet, that they might walk away from the sport at an early age, long before they reached the developmental potential. And so the idea was that if we created more opportunities for wrestlers to make the state finals and give them sort of that carrot at the end of the season, that they might stick around longer in order to become wrestlers who entered into high school. And maybe, that's when they hit their stride and they get better. The longer we keep people in the sport, the better off we'll be. I mean, one of the things that we talk about all the time as regional directors, when you look at the age groups, there's so many competitors at the, 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-year-old, but you look at the brackets at the junior high age kids, the 13 and 14, and they're barely filled. And the question is, what happened to all of those kids? Because they didn't all just move away. For whatever reason, the kids have left the sport. And that's something that, as a youth organization, we're very cognizant of and something that we're trying to always change. We want to keep kids involved in wrestling their entire lives, preferably. And we think that this is a way to do that. Yes. In fact, I think last year, 7 and 8 was the age group that was still combined. That's also going to be single age groups. So the only group that's not going to be a single age group is your 4, 5, and 6-year-old. And I don't know if there's any plans to change that just because of how young they are. But 7 and 8 this year will also be single age groups. And one of the things as a regional director that I've talked with my staff already in our preseason meeting about, my goal is to increase the participation for wrestling in our region. One of the complaints that we had the past 2 years with the single age group is the low number of kids in the bracket, and I understand that. And my goal as the regional director is to try to get those brackets filled, to try to convince, more people to come out for the sport of wrestling and participate, not just for my club, but throughout the region. Well, Um, Punches and bites are considered flagrant misconduct under the NFHS rules, and those are the policies that are put in place to deal with that situation. If it's a flagrant misconduct, you're removed from the competition, and then you miss the next one. The one that becomes somewhat of a gray area becomes, or is the when you're talking about intentional biting, and what we usually try to look for in that situation to determine whether it was an intentional bite or whether somebody's mouth just happened to be open and an arm or something got driven into it, is try to look for that second set of teeth marks from the lower jaw. As you know, sometimes you can cross-face somebody when their mouth is open, and your arm will press into their teeth, and you'll get that mark from sort of the upper jaw. But it's the lower jaw one that usually signifies a bite. Well, I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible. And, nothing gives us a bigger black eye than kids cutting weight. I know one of the things, that I've heard from personally, like within my district, is I've from time to time been called by schools, and one of the things that they're concerned with is they'll have a kid who isn't eating lunch. And obviously everyone on staff becomes concerned about that notices it. And, did you forget your lunch? And they're, willing to do whatever to make sure the kid eats lunch. Then he tells them, no, I've got to weigh in today. And the teachers are just aghast by that type of situation. At the end of the day, there certainly are competitive benefits, to managing your weight. But it's one of those things where the payoff in the short term of competitive success, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form is worth the long-term effects, of, possibly malnourishing yourself, lower performance in school, all of that stuff that comes with it. That's just junk. And one of the things that I'm really happy to see in terms of the development of the sport of wrestling and the paradigm shift is, guys like a Kyle Date, who are like, you know what, I'm going to get bigger and I'm going to wrestle a bigger weight class in college. And they're sort of a great example, that you can hold out to the kids and even to the parents, because most kids don't come up with the idea of cutting weight themselves to say, listen, this is a guy competing at the highest level who says, my body's grown, I'm going to go up a weight class. I'm going to just get bigger and stronger, because if I know how to wrestle, I'm going to be fine. One of the things in my club, for instance, when we weigh in on Wednesdays for the tournament, I have the kids do it in their full practice gear and their shoes, so that if they're even close as far as a weight class, they're moving up to the next one. And when I have parents approach me and they say, my son's starting to grow, he can't make that weight class, I don't think he's going to be able to make this weight class all season. My response is, don't even try. Let's move up to the next one now and start, working on wrestling those kids that are going to be at the weight class he's going to be at. Because, having a kid, especially the younger you get, depriving them of food and water is utterly ridiculous. I've had a near lifelong love affair with the sport of wrestling. As I said before, my interest got piqued in junior high, and when I started wrestling, at 14 years old, it quickly became something that wasn't something that I did, it was something that was me. And I sort of still define myself as a wrestler. And it's something, I'm always at my best when I'm part of something bigger than just myself. With respect to running the league, it's so exciting to be a part of a group of people. And when I say a group, not just the people at the weekly MyWa tournaments, but the MyWa board and that group. It's so inspiring to be around a group of people that all care so passionately about the sport and want to see it grow and want to see it thrive. here in Michigan. I actually just came back. We had a conference yesterday with all of the MyWa directors, and it's just something that sort of reinvigorates you for the next season to see so many people excited about the sport and talking about the directions that we can go to continue to grow the sport. And, I really enjoy being a part of that organization. I enjoy running the league in terms of, making sure we put on good tournaments, that people have a good experience at, that, so hopefully that they will too fall in love with the sport of wrestling and, make it a part of who they are. No, the state tournament's going to be back at Wings Arena this year. I don't know if when they originally signed up with Wings, they either did a 2 or a 3-year contract. I just can't remember. So it's definitely going to be at Wings Arena again this year. And from the moment that tournament ended, Dave Dean has been working on ideas to try to make it a better experience for everybody. I know one of the challenges that we had last year was seating in the Valley, which is the other, the second of the 3 ice arenas, the ones that just had bleachers on the one side. What he's trying to do already, and this is, like I talk about a guy who's, it's so exciting to be a part of somebody who's so passionate about the sport of wrestling and who is always looking to try to make things better. One of the things that he's doing is he's actually come up with the idea of designing like a new youth wrestling mat that is a little bit smaller than a high school one, but so that he can fit basically, I think he's looking to fit, instead of 8 mats in the main arena, make it 12 mats in the main arena so that more people will be in the main arena where there's more seating to alleviate the congestion in the other venue or the other arena or rink within the arena that didn't have quite as much seating. So, they're already looking at possibly, they're making that investment to try to make things better for everybody. But, yeah, it's going to be at Wings Arena again. I actually have started talking to him. I want to try to maybe make a pitch to bring the tournament to the metro region and do it at the Macomb County Community College Sports and Expo Center. So I'm trying to have him come down and visit and take a look at the facility and see what he thinks.
All right, thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.